Hi everyone, good evening. So today we will talk about the Azure Firewall. In the previous session, we discussed about application security groups, and before that we discussed about network security groups. So now the extension is firewall. So what is firewall? What is the purpose of it? How to configure it? And what are the components are required to create this firewall? We'll see now. And before that, we need to understand first of all why we need to configure firewall. So for that, we can just go and read some basic documentation of the Azure. You can Google it, Azure Firewall in Azure, so that you will get this page. So basically, what is Azure Firewall? Azure Firewall is a cloud native and intelligent network firewall security service that provides the best of breed threat protection for your cloud workloads running in Azure. So whatever the services, especially for your applications, virtual machines, or maybe other services which you use, it is going to provide you the security. But even NSG is also going to provide you the security, right? Then why we need to use firewall? NSG is not an high level firewall protection. Okay, so this Azure Firewall give you more security compared to the NSG. In the Azure Firewall, like you can block the websites. For example, you want to block websites, you can block it. And if you scroll down, they are giving multiple SKUs. If you see standard, premium, and basic. So which one you want? Based on that, they are going to provide you more security features. So for Azure Firewall standard, they are going to provide L3 to L7 filtering and threat intelligence feeds. And you can configure, alert, and deny traffic from known malicious IP addresses and domains that are updated in real time to protect against new and emerging attacks. And if you go to the premium, you are going to get more advanced features like signature based IDPS to allow rapid detection of attacks by looking for more specific patterns. These are like more into the security level. So TLS inspection, IDPS, URL filtering. As I mentioned, you can configure some website URLs also. Then it will block to access those URLs like outgoing traffic. So this way you can able to configure different categories: basic, standard, and premium. So that's why we can use Azure Firewall instead of the NSG. And we'll discuss in detail like with the diagram the difference of this NSG and the firewall and what we can achieve with the help of this firewall concept. And also remember, this firewall is chargeable. So maybe per hour they will charge based upon what standard, like what SKU you choose, standard or premium or basic. So this is very, very costly compared to other services. Why? Because multiple things are in the single service. Like as I mentioned, NSG is also available in the firewall. Whatever you write in the NSG rule, same thing you can write in the firewall also. And also we can call this is an extension of an NSG. And also you can have NAT inside this one. And also these many other features, filtering. And in premium you have previously last 1 year back, premium option was not there at that time. Only like first initially it was very basic, slowly they are improving a lot in this service, firewall service. So if you choose premium, then you'll get more benefits from the firewall. So that's the reason whatever the SK you choose, they will charge a lot, because they are providing many facilities in a single service. Understood? Like blocking functionality, like website blocking, and NSG functionality, NAT functionality is also available in a single service. So that's why it's very costly. Whenever you practice, once done, delete it immediately. If you forget to delete and if you keep on running, then it will be chargeable. So keep in mind whenever you work on the firewall things. So now, whenever uh, this is an like whenever we have a VNet, inside that VNet, we are going to create a subnet. And inside that subnet, if you are creating a VM, so this is a VM. And now when it is trying to access the external world, let's say this is an internet. So whenever from this VM, if it is going and trying to access the internet, automatically it will go and access the internet this way. Why? Because in the default NSG, whatever the NSG it is provided, then that NSG is going to this NSG for this VM, whatever the NSG it is available. If you remember in the outbound rule, automatically it is mentioned go and access the internet. Then it will go and access the internet. But how it will access? This VM should have a public IP address. Without public IP address, it cannot go and access the internet. So then in internet, if it is this machine is accessing some, let's say google.com, then this google.com, it is going to record the public IP address of this machine. And when again, if anyone wants to try to access like from internet, if someone knows about the public IP address of your machine, then it is very dangerous because they can come to your environment with the help of this public IP, and they can hack your environment. They can send some Trojan softwares or any malware software they can send, and they can damage your environment with help of your public IP, because they knows your public IP. They can directly reach to your environment. So NSG doesn't have that much of functionality to stop those malware softwares and Trojan softwares, right? So to avoid that, we are going to introduce the firewall concept. So what happens to the firewall? When you have a firewall here, so firewall will block you what the traffic is going outside. That is first reason. And whatever the VMs want to try to go and access the internet directly, it will not go and access the internet, and it will go and talk to the Azure Firewall, and Azure Firewall will go and talk to the internet. So now with the better diagram, we'll see how it is going to achieve that. Understood? So for that, let's say we have a VNet, and inside this VNet we have a subnet, and inside this subnet we have a VM, and this VM by default is having one NSG. So here for better understanding, we'll mention this one VNet subnet, and this is VM, and this is like an understanding NSG. So by default this is an NSG, and now same way we have another one. Like assume multiple VNets are there in our environment, and but we are taking example of in one VNet one subnet we are taking, and in one subnet one VM is an example. It can be multiple VMs, and here also same multiple VMs. And then what we are going to do here, we are going to create one more VNet. This is also VNet. If you remember hub and spoke model, the same way we are following. So this is one more VNet, and inside this VNet also we are going to create two subnets. And inside this subnet we are going to create a VM, and here we are going to create a firewall, and this is an subnet, and This is also subnet. VM. And this is a firewall. So here in this VNet, we are creating two subnets, and in one subnet, one VM. This is called as a management host. I will let you know why we need this management host. As of now, ignore this one. So this VNet is going to have one firewall, and inside this subnet, we are going to create this firewall. So now what happens whenever if the internet, if you want to access from this VM, it should come to this way, and from here it should reach to the internet to access it. So by default in real world, your machines doesn't have a public IP for each and every machine. So if your machine doesn't have a public IP, then it cannot able to go and talk to the external world. For example, before creating this firewall, you just give a try creating a VM without public IP and try to access the internet. You cannot able to access the internet because to go to the internet, you should have a public IP. That machine should have a public IP. So whenever a VM gets created, if public IP is getting created, then it can go and access the internet. If it doesn't create with a public IP, then it cannot go and talk to the external world. That is a real scenario. So in real world also, what are the subnets we create? All the machines doesn't have a public IP. Then how it can go and talk to the internet? And another thing is, even though if it is having an IP, public IP, it will go and talk from this way. Like this, it will go and talk to the internet. Now, we want to tell that don't go from this way, go from here with the help of firewall. So from here to here you reach, and from here firewall will take you to that request to the internet and give back to that result, whatever you are expecting. So now for this, what are the things required? So we need to have this all this setup, but before that, what else we need? We need to have a peering also. Why? Because this is a separate VNet, this is a separate VNet. So to access from here to here, obviously to access this firewall, there should be a communication. Otherwise, there is, even though if you are configuring everything, you cannot able to reach firewall because without peering, it is not possible. So what we can do, we need to enable peering from here to here, here to here. Because like how many subnets you have, sorry, how many VNets you have, this VNet, or if you have more VNets, and every VNet inside that subnets, if they want to go and talk to the external world, then obviously all the VNets should have peering with this this VNet. Okay, and we call this as an hub VNet, and this we call it as an spoke. So peering is required. VNet peering is required here, and here also VNet peering is required between these two. Then only it can go and communicate to this firewall. So what is the purpose of having this firewall? What it will do? Because whatever the IP it is trying to reach with this, for example, we give let's say what range we can give here, 172 series. I'll give VNet, I'll give 172.16.0.0/16. This is an IP range, and for subnet range I'll give 172.16.1.0/24. This is an IP range, and same way for here also 172.17.0.0/16, and for subnet 172.17.1.0/24. Like from this calculated provided one subnet. So from this subnet it will assign to one IP to this VM. So now this is a private IP which is assigned to this one, and here also when we are creating VNet, obviously it should also have some range. So here what we are going to do, something like this 0.0. This will give /16. And when we create two subnets, and here it will be like 10.0.1.0/24, and for this one 10.0.2.0/24. Well, 10.0.2.0/24. So here we are creating two subnets. So that's the reason two IP ranges here. Now, when this VM, assume from this range, it assigned one IP to this VM 172.16.1.4 is the IP is assigned to this VM. So when this VM is trying to access the internet, it doesn't have any public IP. We don't give public IP, so it doesn't have any public IP. It is trying to access the internet. Now, it should come here, and here what it will do, this firewall will have one public IP. So 20.16.18. Something like this, one public IP will be there for this Azure firewall. So it will take the request, and to access the internet with the help of this public IP, it will go and access. If you are accessing google.com, in the google.com database, it will register with 20.16.18.39. This IP, firewall IP, will be registered here. And then the request, whatever the request it raised, the response will go till here, and firewall will send that information to the VM. So internally, they'll communicate with this private IPs only. From this private IP to 10 series private IP. So firewall also will have one private IP from this subnet. So both they will communicate this way, and then to access the external world, it is going to give this public IP address. So if someone knows the public IP address, they cannot come to your server directly, because if someone knows your public IP, so they can go up to the firewall only. So everything will be blocked here. Beyond that, no one knows what is the IPs of your machines. So in the previous one, when we were not having this concept, directly mostly you can reach till VM. So there they can manipulate, and they can send some malicious softwares like Trojan or some other software. Then they can crash your environment, or they can hack your data, whatever they want. So this firewall can do many things. So they can completely block whatever the configuration you do. Based on that, it will block here from the outgoing traffic, or like incoming traffic also. And outgoing, every machine will go this way, and it will convert the like from private to public, and this machine like this IP will go to the internet. This is how it will work. Understood? So for this, what are the things required? But how you will tell that? See, for example, I created this VNet, this VNet, this VNet, I configure everything. But do you think that once I configure everything, automatically this VM will use this firewall? No, you did not tell, you did not provided a path that VM go to this way and access the firewall and send the traffic. You should define that. Without defining, as usual, VM will go and try to access the internet in this way only. Even though it doesn't have public IP, it cannot able to reach here, but still it will go in this path only. It doesn't know that there is a firewall is there, I should go from here. So you should define that. So to define that, what is required? UDR. So what is UDR? User defined routes. So routing tables comes into the picture. So what routing tables will do? It will route the traffic to where you want to communicate. If your VM want to communicate to internet, what appliance is required? If your VM want to communicate to the on premises, what is required? Like for example, paint. Like if this is your VM, if VM want to access the internet, and if your VM want to access the on-premises data center, or if your VM want to access the client machines which are in the Azure. Okay, so then to reach there, like this is also Azure Cloud, Azure Cloud. So different purpose, different ways of communication. So for all, it should be not the same path. So when your VM want to connect to the internet, you need firewall here. This is firewall. And if your VM want to communicate to the on-premises data center, then you don't need firewall. You need what? VPN, virtual private network. And when your machine want to connect to the other clients, maybe other different tenant, or maybe, but they are in the Azure, then you need what? VNet peering, right? So different purpose, path is also different. Every time it will not the same thing. So here, how it will be defined? How you will tell to VM that, okay, whatever it is trying to access, whether it's trying to access the on-premises or internet, then there comes the routing tables. So routing tables will plays a key role here. In the routing table, you will define that if you are trying to access internet, then use firewall. If you are accessing the on-premises cloud, then use the VPN. And if you are using this one Azure cloud, then use something else. Like this way, in the routing tables, everything will be defined, the path. Then only, oh, it knows that VM, okay, there is a path has been defined, then the route should be going this way. Understood? So same way here, now we should define routes here. So when you define routes, and this, once you create this route, these routes will be attached to the subnets. How many subnets you want in this VNet? If you have 3 subnets and you want all the 3 subnets, then you will attach this route to the subnets. So whatever the VMs inside that subnets, every VM will take the route whatever you defined here. You are telling, otherwise it will not go. Whatever the default route is there, it will use that same thing only. So now we should tell, once this firewall is created, then we should create a route. In this route, we will mention that this is the firewall, and whoever trying to access internet, we will tell that use this firewall. That is mentioned inside this routes. Firewall is created separately, this setup is created separately, but route will decide how to go the traffic of your VMs will be defined inside this, explicitly will be defined inside this routes. So we need to configure routes also. Understood? So now, what are the things we require now? So to configure this, see, it's a big topic. I don't know like whether I can complete today. If it is pending, then we'll continue tomorrow. Okay. We'll see till up to maximum how much we can cover today. Lot of practical stuff is involved, because we need 3 RGs and 3 VNets, and also what else we need, and 3 subnets we required, one in each VNet, because we are creating the 3 VNets, right? So one in each, we need subnets also, and also we need 3 VMs in each VNet. We need to create 3 VMs and 3 NSGs we need to create, and we need to create VNet peering, and also we need to create firewall and user defined routes. These many things we need to create. So let's go step by step how to. First of all, we need lot of setup, because we are testing like from this subnet, so from this VNet one VM is trying to access, and from this VNet one VM is trying to access, how it will be. So we need all this setup, and then we'll go to the practical, and I will test from accessing the internet from this VM and this VM, and again we'll configure rules, then we'll block the internet, and then we'll see all these things. We'll see if possible today, or remaining stuff will be like tomorrow. So for this we have a document also, uh, like that one, GitHub. So Azure Firewall, if you see here, so here I mentioned something like project one, means this I'm going to name it as a project one, and this I'm going to name it as a project two. Understood? So now here creating 3 resource groups. Why we need 3 resource groups? Why? Because this VNet I want in separate resource group, this VNet in separate resource group, and this VNet in the separate resource group. Why? Because we can put all this in a single resource group also. But whenever if you want to delete any specific thing, you should go inside it. You should delete specific resource. If you mention each individual resource separately, then it is good. So managing will be very easy. That's why I'm creating 3. So this is an hub RG, this one hub RG, project 1, project 2. This way I divided. And then VNet's creation. So this VNet going to create, and one subnet is going to create in the same commands. We need only one VM. So one subnet is enough for that one. And this is the prefix, whatever I mentioned here. I think here I provided 10.10. So then I'll change. Okay, at the time of executing, I'll make it 10 dot, or else I'll change it here itself. So I'll make it as a, not to confuse, 10.10.0.0/16. This is a VNet range, and oh, 10.10.1 2.0 here, and this will be like 10.10.1.0/24. So here it is creating a VNet in the subnets, in the resource groups which we created, and also this is the address prefix which I provided here, and then the names of the subnets is project 1 subnet 1, project 2 subnet 1, and this is the subnet ranges which we provided here. So once the VNet and subnet is created, I have created commands also for creating security groups. Previously we were creating security groups manually through the console, but here in this we create NSGs also. But one thing I missed here, we need to create NSG in this VNet also. Why? Because here I'm going to create one VM. So this VM is also required one NSG, but we can manually create it later on. So here these are the commands to create NSGs. And if you see AZ and network NSG rule create, and the name of the resource group name, and what is the NSG name you want to create. This is an NSG name, and the rule name, priority 100, source address prefix star. I'm providing everything is star. Generally source address is star, source port range is star, no specific port, anything, any port, and destination prefix is also star, means any IP address, and destination port range is also star, any. And what is the access? It's an allow. Protocol is TCP, and description allow all traffic, everything is allowed. So same way, this is also one more NSG we are going to create. So these are the two NSGs are going to be created. And then I don't create VNet peering through command line. I prefer VNet peering through console only, because there should be VNet peering. Otherwise, this cannot able to communicate to the firewall. So we need to communicate to this firewall. So I will create this VNet peering through portal only, dashboard. And then VM creation. This VM, and this VM is going to be created. And as you know, this command is same, but the finally I am attaching -f NSG, whatever the NSGs we are creating here, two NSGs, but here mistakenly I provided one NSG name, but this is not created. So what it will do, if the NSG is not available by default, then it will create a new NSG with this name. So let it create. Later on, we'll modify the rules based on our requirement. So these VMs will get created and it will attach the NSGs which we created here. If you don't want to do this, manually you create the NSG, or like don't create the NSG, let VM at the time of VM creation NSG gets created, you just go and create a new rule allowing everything traffic. That is also possible. Vice versa. Here also you can do, don't execute this and don't put this, remove this one. Just create the VMs. Automatically Azure will create a NSG for you by default for each and every VM. You just go there and add a new rule, any traffic, that's it. So this is we are going to create. So once this is created, this setup we are creating, this setup, and VM, this VNet. Then we need to create a firewall. After this, we need to create a firewall. And once firewall is created, we need to create a user defined rules. And once user defined rules is created, then I'll do one thing. Notepad file. Here I'll write like steps. Create RGs, create VNets and subnets, create NSGs, create peering through console, create VMs with CLI, and then create a firewall, create user defined routes, associate routes to project 01 and project 02 subnets. And then once associate is completed, what we can do, okay, once associate is done, then you can check the traffic. Okay, log into VMs and check the internet access. After that, step by step I'll update here. So by this time, like we'll see one by one what we are doing. Understood? So that it will be easy. So now let's connect to the portal. I will answer anyhow while creating these resources. I'll get some time. I'll answer your questions in the meantime. So now I'll go here, portal.azure.com. Okay, enter the code. Okay, not this one. Okay. Okay. 3 3 4 77740. 3 4 77740. So now I'm logging to the portal to create all this setup. So now through the cloud shell we can able to do that. I'll go here shell.azure.com. Instead of a half screen we can take the full screen. So now here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create first the resource groups here. So let's create resource groups. First command is failed. So three resource groups has been created. And now I'm going to create a VNET and subnet. So it is getting created the VNet. Previously, to create firewall resource, it used to take 1 hour of time. Slowly, it has been reduced. Last time it took around 10 minutes of time. We'll see now how quickly it is going to be created. And this firewall service is like completely managed service by the Azure. Second one is getting created. And third one. So one VNet subnet is created. Second one is also created. And this is the third one we are creating. Which means to understand here, this VNet is created. This subnet is created. This one also VNet created, subnet is created. Now I'm creating this VNet and subnet. So if you remember here, we need to create two subnets. Here only one is enough, but here we need to create two subnets. But in the command line, if you observe, for HubRG, only one subnet I'm creating. Why I'm not creating second subnet, I will tell you later on. Okay. At the time of creating firewall, I will tell you. I am not creating this subnet as of now. At the time of creating firewall, I will let you know about this subnet. As of now, I'm creating only this one. So subnets has been created. And then now security groups. First of all, we are creating a security group. And then this is creating security NSG and this is creating a rule. Two different commands. This is creating NSG and this is creating rule. Now go back here, clear the screen. Creating NSG. NSG is created. And then this is a rule we are applying any created. And then second, because we have two VMs in two different VNets. And now creating a rule. This is a rule. See how to know all these options. What and options required. For example, AZ. First command is default AZ, and then network. You are creating or doing some modification or deleting network related resource. Then you should use -help. So now after network, there are multiple network resources are there. If you see here, ASG is one network resource, custom IP is one network resource, DDoS production is one network resource, DNS, LB, local gateway, NAT, NIC, NSG is one network. These all are resources which comes under the network. So now under network, about which resource you are talking about, like NSG. Now NSG, and then give AZ network NSG, and after that, then again if you have doubt what is next to create, then you need to do again -help. What are all the options are available, it will show. So these are the options. AZ network NSG, manage Azure network security groups. You can control network traffic. If you see subgroups, rule is a subgroup inside this NSG. So when you're, this is commands. If you want to see, create, delete the previous command, if you see here, so NSG is a subgroup of network and rule is a subgroup of NSG then. So now previously we are using create, NSG create. And if you see here, create, these are the commands are going to be executed to create. But again, we are talking about rule here now. Now rule, and then it's create. Then again, if it will show the commands -help. So now it's create. Now again, you mention if you want to create -help. Multiple options. Okay. So what are the options you want to use? These are the options here to create. Destination arguments, to create a rule, what are the things are required, everything will be available here. So this way you can prepare your own command line. It's very simple, no need to be worry about it. So but did we executed this one? I forgot whether we executed it or not. Let me try. If it is already available, then it will throw an error, or else first I'll try this one. So creating NSG rule for the two VMs. Okay, and then this is the NSG rule. Clear. Okay, so here NSG is also created. Now the next thing is peering. Peering we can do after VM creation also. It's not mandated that here only we need to do. After creating VMs also, you can do peering, and peering after that you can create VMs. So what I prefer, I will create VMs and then we'll go and do the peering. Then we can get rid of this document. So now I am going to create the first VM. This is the VM I'm creating now. This is a VM management VM. We call this as an management VM. So some options are going to deprecate. So it is giving some kind of warning. We can ignore that as of now. So once this VM is get created, So what we have done, we created RGs, VNet, NSGs, peering not yet done. Create peering through VMs getting created. Okay, done. And this is the first VM. Now second VM. And let me copy the third VM also. Third VM is getting created. We can use Windows machine also, um, because whenever we are trying to access any internet in Windows, you can open a Google Chrome, Chrome, and just accessing the websites for a better view. But in Linux also, we can use with the curl command to access a website to just test it whether we can able to access the internet or not. So now these are the VMs got created now. This VM, this VNet is ready. This VNet subnet to VM is ready. This NSG is ready. Just basic setup. Like when we were talking about VNet concept, right? At that time, we were creating all this stuff. The same way, some basic environment is ready. To practice firewall, this environment is required. So now that is ready. Once this is ready, now we are going to test it, the firewall now to create and test it. But before creating firewall, I will just go to the VM and try to access the internet. Understood? So in the meantime, what I'll do, I'll go here in the virtual machines. So you can see 3 VMs has been created now, and the third one is getting created. So this is project 2 VM1. I will go to the project 1 VM1, and I'll take the public IP and I'll just connect it. As of now, we did not created any firewall, nothing. Just created VNet subnet and we created some VMs. And we'll see sessions SSH and the username accept, and what is the password I provided here. This is the one. I connected to this VM, right? Through my laptop, I can able to connect directly to this VM. And now to check whether you can able to access the internet or not, curl google.com. This means you can able to access the internet if you're getting this page. Understood? And I will just show you the trace route. This is a okay. Trace route is not available. Sudo su hyphen. So trace route will show you whenever you are trying to do the trace route, it will show you the hope cons through which network it is going and accessing the destination. So this is the internet DNS IP. This is 8.8.8. So to access that, how it is going, it will show you. And but traceroute command is not available in this Linux machine by default. Let me install it. So this is an Ubuntu machine. So apt update is the first command you need to do, and then we need to install that package. I think do we have separate traceroute package or in any specific package this command I'm going to get. I'm not sure. I don't remember. We'll see. Okay, it's done. Uh, apt update will update with the some latest repositories. Before installing any package, you need to do always apt update, make it up to date. Then try to install what are the package you are trying. Apt install traceroute. We'll see whether any package with this name. Yeah, I think now if I see traceroute, yeah, it's available. So this is a command apt install traceroute. This is a package name. It will give you the traceroute command. So now I'm going to use this command traceroute internet DNS. So it's directly going to the internet and accessing it. Understood? Once we enable the firewall, then I will show you the difference at the time. Then we can confirm that whether it is going through firewall or not with this help of this trace route output. So as of now, how it is going to access internet? So this way directly going and accessing the internet. Once we create this firewall and create routes and add these routes to this subnet, then again I'll come to this VM and I'll do trace route. Then it will come here from this way, it will go and access the internet. Understood? So that's why I want to show you before doing this firewall stuff to show whether how it is going. So this machine is having internet access. You already seen curl google.com, any curl gmail.com. So this is like website accessing. So now go and create. This is our assume this is our normal setup. So now we are going to configure firewall for more security. So now go and create the firewall. So here before firewall I did not configure this one, right? Peering. So let's complete this step now. So go to the virtual networks. And we are going to have peering between hub to spoke 1 and hub to spoke 2 here, means project 1 and project 2. So I'll go to the hub RG and peerings, add peering. This one hub to project 01. This is the name I'm providing, and already we discussed about these features, so I'm not going to explain again. Then proj 01 to hub, vice versa, the same subscription, and here I am going to select project 1. From hub to project 1 we are creating peering. From here to here we are creating a peering, and then add it. And again we need to create one more peering, and then add hub to project 02, and this time here peering name project 02 hub, and select this one now. So again we are creating from here to here peering. Why we are creating peering? Because by default you cannot even though if you create a firewall here, you create rules, routes and attach to the subnet, but still VM cannot able to use this firewall because this VNet by default cannot able to communicate. To establish communication between these two VNets, we need to have peering. That's why we are doing it. One peerings are unable to connect to all the addresses spaces in this virtual network and must be synced. You must have contributed asset to peer networks. Okay, so peering is also completed. Now we are going to create a firewall. So I'll go to the home, and here if you see firewall manager is going to manage multiple firewalls from sitting from one place. Okay, so firewall, create firewall, and now resource group hubrg. This is a resource group hubrg where we are going to create a firewall. So this is a VNet and this is an hubrg where we are creating firewall, and name firewall 01, and same best US region I am creating because all my resources are there. And here if you see SKU, premium firewall support additional capabilities such as SSL termination, IDPS, additional cost may apply. We are not going to select premium, and we will select a standard by default. And how you are going to do this firewall management? We are not writing any policies here. We are going to use rules. Firewall rules we are going to apply. So select the firewall rules and choose a virtual network. So we need to create which network? This VNet, and choose this one. Before that, it is asking virtual network name. Okay, choose a virtual network is existing, and then virtual network name is this one, hubrg-vnet1. Now it is saying this virtual network must have a subnet named Azure Firewall subnet. That's what I was telling you. Here we need two subnets, but I created only this one. This subnet I created, this VM I created, but this subnet I did not created. Why? Because you should create, and whenever you are trying to create a firewall in this VNet, it is asking a subnet with this name only. Even though this hubrg might have hundreds of subnets, but it is expecting only this subnet, Azure Firewall subnet. Why? Why it is asking with specific name? Because it is giving you some name, and with this name, if you create a subnet, automatically Azure will take it and then it will apply some policies to that subnet. That whenever you are trying to create a VM in this VNet, at that time it will not show you this subnet. So some policies will be applied to this subnet because this is for the firewall. So that's why they are giving you that name to use that name. So when you provide that name, automatically it will pick up that name and it will apply some policies to that subnet. Because this is specifically to the Azure Firewall. You cannot create any VMs and you cannot use that subnet anymore. So that's the reason they are asking to create a subnet. So what I'm going to do, I will go to the next tab, and then I'll go and create a subnet with that name, whatever they are telling. So let's go there. Virtual networks, hubrg, subnets. By default, one subnet is there. Create one more subnet. Name, same exactly. Azure Firewall subnet. F and S is uppercase. Azure Firewall subnet. And subnet range, you can give what we were giving here, 10.10.2.0. We'll give 10.10.2.0/24. So this is the range I'm giving. I'm not selecting any gateway, nothing like that. So default option selected, and then save. How quickly it completed 1 year. I'm surprised. Still half of the task only completed for firewall. So now this is created. Azure Firewall subnet is created. Now then again I'll go back here, reload it. So again I'll provide the details. Resource group hub RG firewall 01, and I'm going to select standard firewall. Firewall policy, not policy. This is the firewall rules. Virtual network, already have virtual network, which is hub RG. Now it is not giving any error. So it found its subnet, and then public IP address. As I mentioned, firewall is going to have one public IP. So it's a static public IP, means dedicated public IP we are going to create now. So now I don't have, so I'm going to create new uh, firewall pub IP. This is the name I'm providing, and review and create, because next is tags. I don't want to create any tags, just to create it. So previously, in maybe 1 year or 1.5 years ago, it used to take 1 hour 40 minutes to create firewall, because slowly they keep on improvising the services, and same way firewall service also. But I think now it is not taking that much of time to create this firewall. So quickly it is going to create with a lot of features. By that time I'll answer few of the questions. Deployment to resource group, that might be at least one resource deployment operation failed. Please list deployment. Why deployment is failed? Cannot create more than 3 public IP addresses for the subscription. Okay, okay. So what I'll do, delete deployment. Maybe this is free trial, right? The public IP utilization is already used, I think. So now let me go and create once again. Create a resource group hub RG, name firewall 01, standard. I'll just give another name, firewall 001, something like this. And firewall rules, existing VNet. This is the one. And here I'm not creating a new public IP here. Already whichever I have existing cannot be associated with this firewall. None must have force to hub RGBM. Okay. 3 machines has been created. Those 3 machines um, are assigned with one public IP. So that's why it is not allowing to create one more public IP. Then virtual machines. So I'm disassociating one of the public IP from project to VM. So as of now, I don't require it. Yes. Failed to say operation. Just this is the problem with the free trial. Most of the times it will block our work. Okay, I think disassociate is completed. Now again, if I go and see here, there is no public IP address, and now again I'll try to create a firewall. Resource group hub RG firewall 1 and standard firewall rules. Use existing virtual network hub RG, add new, cancel. Before that, let me check. Okay, add new firewall pub IP. Create. We'll see if it allows or not. Create. For free trial, they can give you maximum 3 public IPs. So that's why I created already 3 VMs. So it's allocated 3 public IPs. Now when I was trying to create a IP for the Azure firewall, it is giving me an error. Not create more than okay. So I think already I deleted that, but still it is showing I disassociated from server to NIC. Now I'm deleting it completely. It should remove from here, right? Okay, resource not found. Okay, maybe now again I will try. Home, firewalls, create resource group hub RG, name firewall 1, standard firewall policy rules, existing network hub RG, add public IP, firewall pub IP. Okay, review and create. I think now it will create. Yeah, it got created. Firewall public IP. Okay, let it create. I will stop it here. By the time I will answer your queries, then tomorrow we'll continue the remaining. Like once firewall is created, then how to create these user defined rules and how to associate to the subnet and how to check that whether the subnets can able to reach the external world or not, everything, how it is using firewall, whether we achieved or not. We'll try to block website to specific this VM and let's see whether it can able to reach the particular website or not. All these things tomorrow we'll see. Okay, so by that time we'll see more than one firewall. From starting onwards, I'll come. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Is VNet peering and VNet integration same? No, both are not same. Raja, firewall works same as a proxy. Yeah, kind of proxy only because see, it is like accessing from here and going to the internet with the help of a private IP. It is going and firewall will take your request and it will go to the internet, and then what are the response comes, it will go and send it to the VM. What is the position of load balancer? Next in coming topics, maybe on Wednesday we'll start with the load balancer. Now Sagar, is public IP not accessible or visible through VNet peering? Is public IP is not accessible? When you have VNet peering from machines to machines internally, they can able to communicate with the private IP itself. Then there is no public IP is required. Is there any order to execute script? Yeah, you mean to say, Rajesh, all these commands which we are executed now, you can write it in a file and you can execute as a script also. If someone from outside of the organization gets to know the private IP range of an organization, can you access the VMs? No, even though if someone knows the private IP, you cannot able to access it through VPN. It will happen. Yeah, until unless you are connected to your office network through VPN, then only you can able to access the private IP. Otherwise, you cannot do anything with the private IP. Even hackers or anyone cannot able to reach that private IP address. Krishna, why NSG? We can write rules in firewall also, right? See, NSG is for your VM level, right? Sometimes your VM is going to allow the specific traffic, for example, specific port. Internally also it will work. We are talking about this from external world, but internally also if you want to block or allow some other VMs, other network inside your internally, then NSG only will work. Firewall will not come into the picture. Firewall is only about the internet. Understood, right, Krishna? Public IPs are created along with VM. Yes, public IPs are created. When we are peering to VNet, that should be in same region or that can be different region. In same region, we call it as a local peering. When it is a different region, we call it as a global peering. That already we discussed in the peering session. Can we assign an IP to a VM from firewall subnet? No. When you try to create a VM also, as I mentioned here, then automatically your Azure VNet will block this one. It will disable in the kind of sense, grayed out. You cannot use this subnet anymore to any VM creation, anything. It is only for dedicatedly to this Azure this one firewall. Uh, can we add more than one firewall? To where you want to add more than one firewall? To take SSH, we need public IP. Yeah, to take SSH, we need public IP, but with the firewall, without public IP also, you can able to reach that. That is the purpose. Static IP of firewall as an automatical. Static IP means manually you are creating that option public IP, create that IP. Okay. Then it is assigning to the firewall. free IP per region, try different region. Again, we need to create different setup now. Instead of West, I took one region, West US for all the setup. Again, we need to change this document and create some resources, VNets in the different region. So instead of that, what we can do, for any of the VM, we can delete the public IP and that we can assign to firewall as we did today. That's the best. Hubbaji, we have public IP. Can we add more than? Yeah, I don't understand. To where you want to add more than one firewall? Irshad. Does firewall need public IP in the case of on-premises? You mean on-premises data center firewall? Obviously, like there again, it will works on different way. Like if it is an internet gateway separate is there, then it will have public IP. It depends. Here in Azure, firewall is different. In on-premises firewall concept, firewall purpose is the same, but there again it will be like internet gateway will be there. How it is going and accessing the external world, that is different. Physical setup is completely different. What is the main difference between SSH and IP apart from network connection? SSH is a service which is running inside the server, which is allowing you to access the Linux machine, and IP is assigned to that machine so that you can able to communicate. VM in project one is going to communicate with firewall, then it goes to internet. Can the reverse communication is also possible, like from internet to that particular VM in project one? From the internet, if you want to access project one, see directly you cannot access. That is the purpose, right? No one should able to access your VM from the internet. If you have public IP, directly they can come and access. Tomorrow I will show you how we can. There will be no public IP. I will delete the public IP for this VM also tomorrow. For both the VMs, there should not be any public IP. Then they should go and access the internet. And again, from outside, how we can able to go and access this VM, I will show you tomorrow. Instead of VM is going to configure the and it goes and can be different. Yeah, for different project, you can use different multiple firewall setups. Can I ping project 1 to project 2 without peering? No, you cannot do that. You can, yeah, that is very good question. Most of the people think that from here to here we have peering, here to here peering. So can you able to communicate VM from here to here? That is not possible. So here also to this both the VNets you should have a peering connection compulsory. Otherwise they cannot able to communicate. What is the main use in organization to this firewall? Main use from attacking from different malicious softwares, hackers, to save from them, you are going to have a firewall. Security, right? Major is security. For your big gated community, if there is no security, then anyone can come and they can steal from your house, they can do robbery, they can kill anyone. Like there is no security. Same way here also. If there is no firewall, with lot of software they can attack and they can steal your data, important application, or they can crash your database. Your complete application will be down. To block them, we are using this firewall. Okay, so tomorrow again we'll do this practice. Firewall got created, but what I'll do, I'll delete it now. before starting the class, again I'll start it, because as I said, this is a chargeable, very huge price they are going to charge. So I'm going to delete it, and then again tomorrow I'm going to create it. Understood? So thank you. Thanks everyone.